Hey, welcome back to the Papameat channel. How you doing? Today we're going to be talking about video game marketing stunts gone wrong.
Do you like this game? No! Is it dumb?
This game is a babies.
These aren't your mom's video game marketing stunts. Except for that Dead Space one where they showed your mum Dead Space. I guess that one technically is your mum's video game marketing stunt.
Why would they even make something like that?
Dead Space 2.
But the rest of these have nothing to do with your mum. Now, as I'm sure you know from your brief time downloading Unity and then giving up, making games is hard. However, marketing games is arguably harder. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, build it and they will come, which is just awful advice, by the way. I think the only way build it and they will come would ever work would be if they built a life-size statue of Emma Stone getting her baps out. For everyone else though, just making a quality product is not good enough. I should know. I make YouTube videos. The commitment to play a video game is so much higher than almost any other form of media. When you're marketing a game to someone, you're not only asking them to hand over their hard-earned clams, but also dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of hours of their time. Combine that with the emergence of the internet and the unparalleled marketing power of memes, virality, and word of mouth, and you have a recipe for a bunch of out-of-touch marketing executives desperate to hop on the latest trends and making a fool of themselves in the process. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on the on the kudos exclamation YouTube channel. Now, when a marketing stunt is done right, it can generate a huge amount of attention for the game and be just a fun, positive experience for everyone involved, such as the Cult of the Lamb weddings that my friend Josie organized for PAX Australia last year. It was a fun spectacle that matched the game's theme perfectly and gave two superfan couples an unforgettable wedding for free. I mean, kind of a win-win all around. However, most of the stunts we're going to be talking about today are just cynical attempts to bother and harass the general public in the hopes of a viral clip. Wow, I'm so glad we don't do that anymore. Cast your mind back to 2007, all right? The hotly anticipated sequel to the smash-out hit God of War is just around the corner, and the way that Sony decided to market this was a little bit extra. Points for creativity. I don't know if I would have gone with the dead goat, but I mean, we're still talking about it today, so maybe it worked. Now, if you look up any worst video game marketing stunts list, which you don't have to, by the way, because you're watching this video, I mean, you may as well just keep watching. You've already clicked on it, right? This story appears in almost all of them, but I don't think a single one accurately described what happened. Here's an article from the time, Sony slaughtered for dead goat stunt. Nice. This first came under fire, to my understanding, from a British newspaper called The Mail on Sunday, which is kind of riding yourself into a corner, really, isn't it? Can't get that any other day than Sunday. Slaughter. Horror at Sony's depraved promotional stunt with decapitated goat. It sparked a major row over animal cruelty and the ethics of the computer industry. 2007 was a simpler time, isn't it? It's not wrong, but calling the video game industry the computer industry and not tech or entertainment or anything, it's very funny. So the Mail on Sunday really took a bit of creative liberties with what happened. There was a dead goat, that part was true. However, they go on to say that guests were invited to reach inside the goat's still warm carcass, pulling out and eating meat they were told was the goat's intestines, which I'm sure would spark up a variety of health and safety issues were that true. Still warm also implies that this goat was, freshly slaughtered, maybe at the event itself. Very evocative imagery from the Mail on Sunday, so great work there, team. However, the reality is much more boring and kind of lame, honestly. Now, if people were just a bit upset about this, I'm sure it wouldn't have really affected Sony too much. People were really excited for God of War 2, and I doubt hearing that they had a dead goat at a promotional event would have people been like, well, I was fine with the violence and sex and murder in the game, but a real life dead goat borrowed from a butcher? That's a bridge too far for me, sir. I will be refunding my pre-order of God of War 2. I doubt that would happen. However, it did cost Sony a bit of cashola because the official PlayStation magazine decided to run an uncensored picture of the decapitated goat, which forced it to be recalled. The UK's official PlayStation magazine has said today it will yank a picture depicting a headless goat. The picture was taken at an ancient Greece-themed event recently hosted by Sony Computer Entertainment Europe to launch God of War 2. I hate this website, by the way. They keep using acronyms for like Mail on Sunday and the official PlayStation magazine. Like, these aren't acronyms anyone uses in their day-to-day. I know you introduced it already, but fuck you. The newspaper itself also reprinted the grotesque image, albeit with the bloody bit blurred, to spare readers the sight of the decapitated goat's head hanging by a thread of tissue from its course with blood dripping to the floor. Yeah, here's why I don't like these fucking acronyms. They can't even keep them consistent. Originally it was OPSM for Official PlayStation Magazine, and now it's OF, so short for Official Station Magazine. Great job, the Register. Now let's talk about what actually happened. So I mentioned earlier that the goat was real. However, almost every other thing about this event was hyperbole. While digging around, I managed to find a video on Dailymotion, of all places, which feels like, you know, having to go to like a dodgy neighborhood to buy drugs. Now, the dead goat was only a fraction of the overall event, where they invited a bunch of games journalists to Athens for an ancient Greece-themed party, obviously to tie in with the game's mythological theme. It appears to have been done mostly to make this promotional video, with the lead designer sitting at some no doubt very nice Airbnb. Todd Pappy here, he's the senior game designer. He's going to walk you through this whole thing.
We want the player to feel like a badass.
Todd, I love you. You're great. And you do feel like a badass in the game. I don't know if delivering the line like that really inspires confidence. So they had a guy, a real kind of proto-Andrew Tate type fella cosplaying as Kratos, who I believe kind of hosted the event, or at least gave out the awards. But what they did was they subjected these poor, malnourished game journalists to a gauntlet of almost like Fear Factor-esque challenges. Includes getting a key out of a box of snakes. They're very clearly not venomous or really dangerous in any way, and you can kind of just reach around them. So pretty easy challenge there. The second challenge appears to be some kind of like knife throwing or axe throwing. Just a bit of fun. Taste the sacrificial food of the gods. There we go. There's the goat in particular. And then they ate a traditional meat soup, and it's kind of edited in a way that almost makes it look as though they're like disgusted by it. Like, look at the way, first of all, gross, having the noodles slurped up, and then this dude here is like really gingerly sipping it and like coils away. So the implication, at least from watching this video, is almost like, look at this gory dead animal, and then here's some food right next to it.
Yummers.
So there's the goat. That was what they saw. Sony later clarified the warm entrails referred to in the invitation and in the Mail on Sunday article was actually a meat soup made to a traditional Greek recipe and served to attendees in china bowls direct from the caterers. There was never any question of journalists being able to touch the goat or indeed eat the soup direct from the body of the goat, as one report has alleged, which is referring to the Mail on Sunday's report. The goat was returned to the butcher at the end of the event. I don't know anything about butchery. Can they still use that, or would they be like, hey, no, this, first of all, was around games journalists, so big biohazard there. Second of all, it's just been sitting out, like not in a chiller or anything, just hanging out in a room. Can you still use that? Comment below if you can still use the goat. Outside the fact this was obviously safe to eat, it was still pretty fucking nasty, right? Like trying to eat while there's just like a rotting carcass of a goat decapitated on the ground next to it. Even the winner of this event, who made off with, I believe, £500 and an Xbox, even he commented on how nasty the last segment was.
I had some really tough competition over there, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, even though the last part was a bit disgusting.
Ultimately, Sony apologized for the goat, pulled those 80,000 magazine covers, and God of War 2 went on to be a very successful game.
Now for a quick word from our sponsor.
Whoa! Mermulner is here to destroy Whiterun. We need a hero. The Shin Slasher will save the day. Now with key collecting action. Kids, make sure you're dressed to kill in our legally distinct, custom-designed Black Sisterhood tees. Just look at these testimonials. And now, steal your parents' credit card for the Fantasy Division Tote Bag of Holding. Our custom-designed tote bag is perfect for your next tabletop gaming session. with ample room to hold boxes, books, cards, and, well, just about anything you can think of.
This time I didn't cut my pinky off.
Ask your parents to visit www.fantasydivision.com now and snatch up the Assassin Supply Bundle for an exclusive trading card.
You will buy some Fantasy Division, yes you will. You will buy some Fantasy Division, yes you will. You will buy some Fantasy Division, yes you will.
Now, this time period had a real obsession with like blood and guts. I guess the 2000s were kind of a rebellion, and especially when you've got something like GTA letting you run around, murder innocent civilians, and become insanely popular as a result. A lot of games from this time period seem very obsessed with like, how can we push the boundary more and more? In doing so, infamous publisher Acclaim decided to gross out the public this time, not just games journalists invited to an exclusive event, in order to advertise their game Gladiator Sword of Vengeance, which I'll point out nobody's ever heard of, so this marketing campaign clearly did not work. They planned to have bus shelters in the UK literally seep blood. The ads placed behind plexiglass for a 6-day period will shoot red dye onto the backside of the plexiglass, which will then drip down onto the street. The concept of bloodvertising, talking about a game, this is such a like marketing speak way of talking about like blood and carnage. Like it's a very like suit done up like, yes, the concept of bloodvertising ties in with our marketing strategy and sticks with the theme of blood and carnage, which is consistent throughout the Gladiator video game. We expect excellent returns in Q4 of this. The video game set in 106 AD is claimed to be the bloodiest ever to hit the gaming space. That's another funny thing you will come across a few times looking at some of these old marketing stunts, is how many of them really want to phone home just how violent and gory and edgy these games are. I guess kind of like the modern day obsession with showing off how horny your game can be, where it's like, okay, well that's cool, but is it actually a fun game though? Like you can't just plaster like gore or tits on screen and expect like instant thumbs up across the board. You actually have to make a good game on top of that. Like Left 4 Dead 2 is probably one of the most gory games I can think of. But you can turn all that off and it's still just a great game. There were concerns around the property destruction or not even destruction, just I don't think anyone wants just piles of fake blood pooling on the sidewalk, so Acclaim had to clarify that they would be hiring teams to clean up the blood after the stunt. I searched far and wide and I couldn't find any photos of this, which almost makes me think this didn't happen and it was just like an idea they had. They're like, people won't check, we'll just say we're doing this, which honestly, probably better than actually doing it, really. I mean, saves you a lot of fucking money. No blood on the street. This is not the last time we're going to be hearing from Acclaim. Let's just say they lost their fucking minds. Now we're going to take a quick break from the stupid marketing stunts to talk about one that's actually pretty cool, in my opinion, but definitely ties into this theme of gross shit. To celebrate Resident Evil 6's release, yet again in the UK, all three of these stories have been sort of based out of the UK or Europe for some reason. They set up a fake human butcher, a human meat butcher in London with a variety of references to the game, which I think is really cool. I actually think they put a ton of effort into this. There was a bunch of other kind of ARG stuff around this too, but this was kind of the nuggets, the pearl of this whole campaign. You could buy severed arms and meat, which is all made of pork, aka the closest thing to human flesh, allegedly. But ultimately, it seems like it was a lot of fun. They had a lot of references to the games themselves. I think you could buy like red and green herb. The shop itself was named like Wesker and Sons, I believe. The one thing I did find funny about this though is, you know how like when corporations do something like slightly edgy or something they could be like criticized for, they'll like donate money to the organization in question to kind of like preemptively be like, hey, no, we're not trying to offend you. All the money raised from the sale of these items, because you could actually buy a bunch of these fake human products, which again were just made of pork. And the money would all go to the Limbless Association, a UK group that provides support and information for those who have lost a limb. I guess maybe they felt guilty about having, you know, all the severed members and everything hanging around everywhere. Now, because this happened in the UK, I don't think anyone really like gave a shit. I'm sure if this happened in the US, you'd have the usual suspects coming out and kicking up a fuss and getting offended. And I know that there is no shortage of offended people in the UK too, but they seem to at least have a bit of a better sense of humor when it comes to things like this. One thing I've seen almost no article mention is the fact you could get penises They had penises on offer. It's a real kind of blink and you miss it moment. This close-up shot here really kind of caught my attention. But this happened and I was like, let's hold on a second. we wind that one back. This offal tray has some very interesting specimens on it. I'm not sure if these are like actual peni or like dildos that have been like cut and painted to look. I mean, I'm assuming that's what it is. I don't think anyone has a tip that pink. And I believe these are just props, not any of the things you could actually buy. I've seen no one bring up the phallus portion of this meat market, so that's pretty funny. All right, the year is now 2010. It's been a few years since the God of War 2 stunt, and God of War 3 is right around the corner. However, God of War now has a major competitor, and their publisher EA was not afraid to throw as much money as they needed at their marketing team in order to get this game to dethrone God of War as the mythological themed hack and slash king of the 2000s. I'm of course talking about Dante's Inferno and its absolutely fucking insane marketing. Dante's Inferno, if you don't remember, was a hack and slash game released for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PlayStation Portable. It was generally well received, 7 out of 10 across the board, mostly remembered for being, a kind of okay God of War clone. The marketing, much like the game, is based around the 7 deadly sins, or the 9 circles of hell, or sorry, I don't know the difference. I've been in a church once in my life and my skin started burning, so I had to leave. So I don't know. Whatever it was, they decided to subject a variety of victims to these sins, mostly games journalists, including wrath, lust, greed, famine, war, pepperoni. The game itself is based on the Divine Comedy, an Italian narrative poem by Dante from the 1300s. So a bit of a classic, a banger, very iconic. One of the greatest works of Western literature. And now you can own it with the ugliest book cover of all time. This is a real book they put out, obviously because the author is fucking dead and it happened 700 years ago. Free reign to just reprint it. It's kind of like, when a TV show or a movie comes out based on a book and they like throw out the like beautiful hand-drawn cover for just some like bullshit promotional artwork. This is probably the worst example of that I can think of because it's taking this literary classic and slapping, this piece of shit hack and slash games box art on the front of it and calling it a day. The literary classic that inspired the epic video game from Electronic Arts. Includes an exclusive 16-page full-color insert and special introduction from the game's executive producer. Hell yeah. The first thing they did, which was very lame, was staging a fake religious protest of the game at E3 instead of jacking off and fucking smoking weed and doing anything else. I guess it wasn't entirely unrealistic for there to be a protest of a game that, is steeped in such a religious history. I guess they just wanted the media to cover it, but like, did they want like other Christian groups to join in and start protesting like GameStops that sell it, or do they want like people to like do counter protests and for it to become this big like snowball? Because they paid for about 20 people to show up and act like they're, offended religious protesters.
And honestly, hell is not some sort of place where you can just march in like a video game. And that's the bottom line here today, is that hell is not a game. Dante's Inferno is some sort of romanticization, glorification of hell, and that's not what we're here to support. We're here to make sure that game never comes out.
I mean, hey, good on this guy for the improv here. Better than I expected, honestly. I hope he got paid well. Very clearly, they would have just gotten a bunch of actors looking for work, and I'm assuming the LA area to... Is it? Hold on a second. Wait, folks, this is real. Didn't expect, first of all, there to be edited in screenshots of the game, and now there's... Not only does he mention a website, but the website is then plastered on screen, which makes me think this YouTube channel is now also complicit and was part of the viral marketing campaign. WeAreSavedGroup.org. There's no way in hell this is still up. However, it is always funny to see who snaps up these URLs. Poker Online, Toggle Online, Judy Online, Casino Online. Interesting. Okay. I'm learning. Is just while we're here, what are these websites? Like who types in the wrong link, ends up on a site like this with a beautiful mesa in Mexico and then a bunch of gambling stuff in Thai? Who ends up on this site and they're like, oh yeah, this is I didn't plan to be here, but boy, am I glad that this is where I've ended up. I'm going to be investing all my clams into this one. Unfortunately, the images on this website, along with the Adobe Flash Player, no longer work. However, we do still have all the text here. Join our cause. We are saved group at gmail.com. Everyone make sure to go and email that and see if you can still join. It's probably not too late. It's only 15 years. On June 23rd, members of SAVED were brutally attacked and electrocuted by EA security force. This most unfortunate incident occurred during an attempt to bring to light the thievery and deception of this vile corporation at their headquarters. Ironically, kind of spit in EA. Whoever wrote the copy for this was like, yeah, I'm gonna cook my boss. Fuck this place. God, I wish I could play whatever this video is. Was someone actually tased? The link to the trailer says, let us ask you this. Is a game really worth the price of eternal damnation? Watch this and see this virtual hell. Click here to give Dante's Inferno a taste of its own medicine. And then it just links to the Dante's Inferno website. A pretty creative way of working in the trailer in the game's website, so can't really get too mad about that. What is this page? I'm now looking at the YouTube channel that had the fake Dante's Inferno protest up, and I think it's real. I think this is a real YouTube channel. I don't think this was part of the marketing. I take that back, unless whoever owns it just decided to then go on and post 500 more videos, including what appears to be shots from a town hall, unboxing videos, brush fires in Orinda, California. I love this era of YouTube where it was just some guy's like personal video storage account. Like, who's got the fucking appetite for both things this guy saw at E3, circus animals, Oakland Police Captain Ed Tracy speaking out, a review of Dead Island.
You can just run them over, you can splash at them, you can impale them. It's awesome. I will give the game 3 stars.
Reviewing Spotify 13 years ago.
You ought to take a look at Spotify.
Yeah, there's really a smorgasbord there. One of their other convention-themed marketing stunts was the Sin to Win competition held at Comic-Con, which had this beautiful poster accompanying it. Sin to Win, a night with the hottest girl at Comic-Con. Dinner, booty, and more. Now that obviously implies a lot of things. They ask you to commit acts of lust. And what they meant by that is take photos with us or any booth babe. I love the idea of just taking a photo with some like 2000s game dev nerd, just some guy rocking sneens. So you gotta take a photo with him or with one of the booth babes, represented here by a woman wearing a bikini. I don't know if they actually were or not. Then you have to tweet at Dante Team with the hashtag lust, which I did check on Twitter that there was about a dozen posts and it was mostly people making fun of them. No pictures of anyone with a booth babe, unfortunately. And then you can find more babes for more chances to win. Every picture with a babe is one more chance to win. I don't know if it's per babe. I don't know if you get 3 babes, if it's 3 entries. Either way, the one hand-picked winner, I guess the least greasy person who applied, would win dinner and a sinful night with 2 hot girls, which is confusing because up here it says the hottest girl. Although maybe, I guess that these two aren't necessarily canceling each other out. Maybe one of the 2 hot girls is the hottest girl and the other girl's just a girl. You also get a limo service, paparazzi, and a chest full of booty. I love that paparazzi was an aspirational thing and not the most annoying fucking thing in the world. And also a chest full of booty? Like, is this, are we fucking pirates now? I thought this was based on an Italian poem, not a sea shanty. I can't be the only one that says dinner and a sinful night with 2 hot girls kind of implies that they're paying for like escorts or shoots or someone you can fuck, right? Obviously, people were not happy with this. And so EA put out a very non-apology on Twitter. We understand there's a lot of debate right now around our Sin to Win promotion at Comic-Con and wanted to clarify a few things. We created this promotion as part of our marketing efforts around the Circle of Lust, one of the 9 sins/circles of hell. That makes it, okay, sorry, yeah, never mind. That makes it okay. We didn't realize you were doing a cool marketing gimmick. You're allowed to harass as many women as you want. Each month we will be focusing on a new Circle of Hell. Ugh. So lame. This month is Lust. Costume reps are a tradition at Comic-Con, which is true. A night of lust, means only that the winner will receive a chaperoned VIP night on the town with the Dante's Inferno reps, all expenses paid, as well as other prizes. Are the Dante's Inferno reps the girls, or is this just some high-up game dev guy who's just like, yeah, you get to hang out with me, man. I'm the lead programmer. Aren't you excited? I have no idea whether this actually went ahead or not. All I can find out is that people were offended by it. Although I would love to have been a fly on the wall. Like, can you imagine the kind of person who goes to Comic-Con, enters a competition for the video game Dante's Inferno called Sin to Win, and then has a night of lust with 2 paid actresses? Like, what was that? What is that conversation like? What does that guy have to talk about with 2 booth babes? As they mentioned in the statement here, every month they're focusing on a different sin, revolving their marketing around that. And for greed, they decided to send out $200 checks to different games journalists, a kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't statement attached to them. The note that accompanied these $200 checks said, "In Dante's Inferno, greed is a 2-headed beast. Hoarding wealth feeds one beast, and squandering it satiates the other. By cashing this check, you succumb to avarice. By hoarding filthy, but by not cashing it, you waste it and thereby surrender to prodigality." Prodigality? The quality of spending or using large amounts of money time, especially in a way that is not very wise. Prodigality. Make your choice and suffer the consequences for your sin, and scoff not, the consequences are imminent. Now, if this was me and I got $200 in the mail from some fucking stupid EA promotion, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm cashing the fuck out of this. I'm going to buy multiple video games not made by EA and possibly some kind of Domino's type pizza arrangement. Games journalists, unfortunately, constantly doing some kind of yoga move that puts their nose down by their asshole, and felt the need to make this into some kind of statement. Kotaku's Brian Concrete, I'm not actually pronouncing your name, fuck you, burnt his check. All right. Invited EA to donate the money to a good cause. Joystick's Chris Grant cashed it, but will donate the money to a prominent women's charity in EA's name. Do you really cashed it and then was like, oh wait, the other guy burnt his? Fuck. Well, I will be donating it to a prominent women's charity in EA's name. Why a women's charity? Well, because of the active lust thing. I mean, fair enough. It's a good cause, but like, it just feels so performative. Just take the money, man. Who gives a fuck? EA gave you $200. $2010. $200 is $294. I got sent almost 300 clams, and they fucking threw that away and burnt it. For the gluttonous circle of hell, they decided to send out cakes also to journalists in the shape of severed limbs with fake maggots on them, which is cute. Don't know if it tasted any good. One of the more infamous stunts they did was centered around the Sin of Wrath, where they would send a few journalists one of these boxes. Once this honestly kind of pretty well made box is opened, it begins to play. Bit of an infamous song, kind of annoying as a result, even though it is a good song. The only way that you could stop Mr. Astley's mewing was to destroy the box with the accompanying hammer and goggle set. But after breaking your way through and dismantling the speaker however you saw fit, you were presented with a note that says,
"Sin of wrath is yours. You have succumbed to anger and opened an infernal spring that seethes with dark waters. Quelled not your anger, begot rage. The waters have risen unchecked, and ye will be drowned in stinking mire. Go to hell, see what awaits the damned. At Dante'sInferno.com."
This whole campaign, not just this, but kind of, you know, the $200 check thing and the limb cake and everything. I don't really fully understand what they expected the journalists to do. Like, it's creative, I'll give them that, and maybe that alone would get people being like, oh well, you know, even if it was annoying, like, it was original and it was unique, and that's kind of fun. But like, you rickroll a journalist, you make them like do an annoying task like destroying a box and a speaker to make this music stop, and then you have a scroll inside that like makes fun of you for doing the thing that they made you do, you know, and then they expect you, the journalist, to report on how you essentially got pranked, but like in a favorable way. Like, they want you to be like, check this shit out. I just got pranked so hard. Dante'sInferno.com. You guys have to check this game out. I mean, shout out to the journalists of the time for actually, I guess, having a spine and calling this what it was, which is very lame. I'm sure if you did this now to some, you know, desperate up-and-coming guy on TikTok or some Twitch streamer or something, they'd be like, oh my god, guys, Dante's Inferno, EA just sent me the coolest box ever. It played Richard Roll, and I had to destroy it with a hammer, and then at the end it called me Wrathful. This is awesome, guys. Make sure to go to Dante'sInferno.com and pre-order yourself. It was a different time. Arguably a better time. I don't know. It just seems, it's first of all very lame. It's just lame. So after all that, after the massive amounts of money that went into marketing the game, it was, I wouldn't say it was a flop. The reviews for it were, generally okay, 7s out of 10s, maybe an 8 here and there. Not only was the game sort of considered to be a less polished version of God of War 3 came out only a month after Dante's Inferno, which honestly would probably go a long way to explain the massive marketing push that EA was putting behind this. But unfortunately, it just couldn't hold a candle to old Kratos, and God of War 3 blew it out of the water. But an overly elaborate marketing campaign isn't the only way to ruin your game's reputation. Sometimes the easiest, smallest, cheapest ideas can have the same effect, such as in 2000's Daikatana. Now, Daikatana was a first-person shooter game headed up by the legendary John Romero at their new studio Ironstorm. John and his mates were coming off a pretty successful string of games. He is credited as the co-creator of Doom, Wolfenstein 3D, and Quake, which are 3 of the biggest first-person shooters of all time. And back in the day were the first-person shooters. Riding off this hugely successful streak of games, publishers were lining up to just throw money at him and his newly founded company, Ironstorm, in Dallas, and they kind of infamously lived rockstar lifestyles, working out of a penthouse in downtown Dallas, driving Ferraris and other flash cars, kind of doing everything I suppose you'd expect from giving a bunch of game developers infinite money. Now, Daikatana had a bit of a troubled development. I believe the infinite money and complete freedom to do anything they wanted kind of went to their heads. The final game was unfortunately not very well received, and I don't believe Ironstorm made it for too long after that. However, the infamous marketing stunt was this. It is a full-page magazine spread that says, "John Romero's about to make you his bitch," with "suck it down" written at the bottom of the ad. Now, John Romero, I suppose, made a lot of people into their bitch in that they bought this piece of shit game. But John himself actually didn't create this ad. And while he did approve of it, apparently he very quickly went back on it and had to be convinced to run it. The ad was created out of a agency in Dallas, and one of John Romero's co-workers thought it was hilarious, epitomizing the in-your-face attitude at the core of the company. I remember very clearly presenting that ad to John in his cubicle. He says, "I also thought it was hilarious," and was like, "Fuck yes." And then he sort of started to think twice about an hour later. He was like, "I don't know, man." And I think my words to him were, "John, don't be a pussy." And that was it. He signed off on it. So he essentially got bullied into releasing this, to running with this ad. Now, if the game had come out and been, brutally difficult, but very fun, I'm sure people would look back on this ad a bit differently. But in combination with the kind of lavish rock star lifestyle, which was routinely reported on at the time, it kind of came across less as like a fun challenge and more of like, egotistical gloating. Let's jump back in the time machine. 2012's Hitman Absolution had a very fun marketing stunt that only lasted for a couple hours. Hitman took it a step further by having an app where you put out hits on your friend. Now, when I say hits on your friend, that seems kind of fun and cute in a kind of like slightly edgy way. The idea of having an app where you can like fake assassinate your friends is like, fun if you do it amongst a friend group that has a good sense of humor. Obviously, it's very, very easy to use something like that for bullying, where you could say, almost send like pseudo death threats to people you don't like, being like, "Yeah, here's a video I generated of Agent 69 fucking sniping your dumbass in the head." The app actually let you set parameters for why they need to be assassinated, which again could have been handled in maybe a funny way, like, "Oh, I don't know, they always leave the toilet seat up, haha," some other Facebook tier comedy. But instead they decided to go for like kind of offensive options. One of the things you get to select is the appearance of the victim as a means to, I guess, describe it to Agent 47. Here are some of the examples of things you can make fun of: her muffin top, her hairy legs, her bad tattoos, her skinny frame, her small tits, her bad hair. These aren't like cutesy or, generic descriptors. These are like specific features you could call out if you wanted to be mean to someone. Very easy to misconstrue this as bullying or straight up death threats towards someone. Like, "Yeah, here's what I wish I could do to you. I wish I could hire a guy to fucking shoot you in the head with a sniper rifle." But unsurprisingly, this app only lasted like a few hours. if that. Like, did no one developing it have any like foresight about how this could be used negatively? Or were they just like, no, this is all just going to be rosy-cheeked all-American boys sending harmless pranks to each other on the internet? What a fun way to promote our game. Of course, Hitman has you threaten your friends virtually, but unfortunately the world's moving faster than ever, and that's already old news now, buckaroo. That's boring. Virtual threats? I'm not going to play your game for virtual threats. I need someone to get really genuinely threatened by a gun in order to fork over my hard-earned cash, which is exactly what they did for Splinter Cell Conviction in my home country, of all places. Back in 2010, a marketing stunt almost ended in tragedy when an actor pulled out a fake gun and terrified pub goers. Again, it's one of those stories you're like, what were you trying to do? Like, in your best case scenario, what was meant to happen here? About 20 revelers, can you really revel if it's not Christmas? About 20 revelers drinking outside Degree Bar dived for cover after the promotions worker threatened them with a black imitation pistol about 8 p.m. on a Friday. Witnesses said they heard someone shout, "He's got a gun," and outdoor drinkers dived behind their tables. The manager of the bar said, "This guy with bandages on his hands pointed a gun at customers sitting outside. They were pretty terrified." So that makes me think that even the staff had no idea this was going to happen. Like, this was just they just planned to pull this out at a random bar without warning the police either, because sure enough, the police were called because a guy with a gun was fucking waving it around. Senior Sergeant Ben Offner said officers could not tell the gun was made of plastic until they had taken it from the actor. Obviously not one of those guns that has little plastic tips on the end. I'll point out as well, in New Zealand, like, we don't have guns. You can get guns, but they're exclusively for hunting purposes and not for self-defense purposes. So you'll never see someone carrying a pistol. You don't even see police carrying guns. Unless there's an emergency. They don't patrol with guns on their person. They are locked inside their car doors and inside their boot. Seeing a gun in any country is obviously very scary, but if that happened to me in New Zealand, I wouldn't know what to do. It's not like the legendary good guy with a gun is going to show up and take him out.
You are a gentleman, sir.
You're kind of fucked, I guess. So I really feel for these people who, were having a nice Friday beer only for some fucking dipshit to pull a gun on them. Pulling a gun on a bunch of people is probably one of the worst ways to drum up support for your game. But even when these marketing companies try and do something nice, it often backfires for them, such as when they tried to give people $40,000 dues worth of gasoline in order to promote the video game Mercenaries 2, which is some kind of stupid piece of shit gritty war game that no one remembers.
It's bad for business.
So is this. Now I have to kill you.
That features warfare over Venezuelan oil facilities. So selling petrol was very loosely tied into the game's plot. EA's marketing team attempted to offer nearly $40,000 in free fuel from a single gas station. Unsurprisingly, this led to hundreds of motorists flocking to the scene. So while a lucky few might have got some free petrol, hundreds of local residents have faced misery on their daily journeys this morning. They deserve an apology for being the victims of an ill-thought-out media stunt. Nothing too crazy with this one. There was a huge fuck-off traffic jam, as you can imagine, because they tried to give away $40,000 of fuel from one location in England, where their roads are nowhere near as designed for that kind of congestion as America, which we know because they also hosted a similar event in LA. However, there was no reports of mass mayhem, according to this article. Obviously, no one's going to kick up a fuss about being given free fuel, but people will kick up a fuss when you accidentally send them illegal weapons, like what happened with the promotion of Godfather 2, the video game based on the movies, the iconic Godfather movies. I can't imagine that game went very good. I can't say I've really ever heard of anyone talk about it. In order to promote this GTA-style adventure, they sent out a bunch of mafia-themed items to games journalists, cigars, silk handkerchiefs, all that sort of stuff. But one of the things they also sent were knuckle dusters, which one journalist quickly pointed out are illegal in many states. You've sent someone a weapon. EA quickly attempted to recall all of the remaining knuckle dusters being sent out to the other games journalists here, and they also declined to comment. I'm assuming just hoping that whole thing would get brushed under the rug. This was around the same time they were doing all the batshit promotion for Dante's Inferno, so I'm surprised they didn't lean into this and, you know, send out more or just start giving people guns or something. What I think probably takes the cake for the worst giveaway associated with a video game marketing stunt is the one done for Skyrim. If you remember Skyrim, pretty obscure video game, not really many people talk about it these days. Bethesda held a competition where if you name your kid Dovahkiin, which is the name given to the protagonist of the game, it means Dragonborn in the game's dragon language.
In their tongue, he is Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
If you named your kid Dovahkiin on Skyrim's release date, only on the release date, by the way, if it's born either side of it and you call it Dovahkiin, that is not a valid entry. You would be given free digital copies of Bethesda games for life. And wouldn't you know it, someone actually did that. Say hello to Dovahkiin Tom Calamai. God, that's a red baby. That is such a red baby. Can someone sound off in the comments if babies are meant to be that red? It looks like you're just done swinging around by the feet like a helicopter for like 10 minutes. Which is so weird. They explained why on their blog. I'm due on the 11th. What's so special about that day? First off, it has the awesome triple like digit. Second, for all the gamers, it is the release date for the long-awaited Skyrim. Third, if our son does make it out on the 11th, we are going to name him Dovahkiin. The reason being, it is an awesome name. It's really not. But it's been a tough year and I wanted to do something special for my son. You've cursed your child. I think that's what you've done. I think you've just given your child nothing but tough years by naming him Dovahkiin. I mean, sure. The funniest thing about this to me is you get free Bethesda games for life, which is like, okay, well, that's nice, but what does that actually involve? So I did look it up in case there was something I'd forgotten. Now, I'm not sure if they're talking about their publishing division or about Bethesda Game Studios, who made Skyrim. I'm going to assume it's Bethesda Game Studios because that's way funnier to me, because it means that this child's life was ruined in order to get 10 re-releases of Skyrim, Fallout Shelter, which is a free iOS app, Fallout 4, so you get one free game there. Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim Special Edition, so you get Skyrim again. Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim VR, so you get Skyrim a third time. Fallout 4 VR, so you get Fallout 4 again. Fallout 76, you'd hope it would come with like all the DLC and a lot of currency. The Elder Scrolls Blades and Castles, which are both free iOS games. And then Starfield, which is a game you'd probably want to get a refund for, even if you got it for free. Hope that was worth it. I definitely feel like they probably expected more games out of this, right? You can't be doing it exclusively for that. However, easily one of the funniest flubs of a prize ever. And that kid is going to be like 13 now as well. And I would love to hear from that kid eventually when he gets on the internet about whether he actually goes by Dovahkiin or the very tactically placed Tom as the middle name. Here's the stupid bullshit name we put at the start for the contest, but we're actually just going to call him Tom. That's kind of how I read that. If you can believe it, that's actually not the first video game marketing stunt that involves changing one's name, except this next one involves ruining the life of an adult, a consenting adult, instead of subjecting your poor newborn to a life of bullying over that stupid Skyrim name. I'm so sorry. I'm sure the kid's had a great life. His name's still Dovahkiin. This next story surrounds Acclaim's world-famous game, Turok. Everyone loves Turok. Turok's the best game ever. No one thinks Turok is a huge piece of shit, but unfortunately some people still needed some convincing, and so Acclaim UK put out the call. Anyone who changes their first name to Turok, named after the Native American protagonist of the game, they would receive £500 and a Microsoft Xbox, which, doing the math, is still better than naming your kid Dovahkiin. The total prize pool is over $1,000, which is, you know, a lot better than the fucking like 4 games you get for naming your kid Dovahkiin. But still an unbelievably stupid marketing campaign. 6,500 volunteers applied, but only 5 lucky Turoks will be chosen. The name change will be legally binding for a year, after which time the marketing guinea pigs can change their names back. This supposedly happened. But in the year of our Lord 2020, journalist Connor McCarr decided to hunt down the 5 people who changed their name to Turok and uncovered an interesting little wrinkle in the story, which is that despite the contest being open to public submission, it appears that the 5 people who they chose were in fact actors. Wow, who would have thought a stupid marketing stunt was not real? He refers to it as Sarah, and she confirms that all 5 of the winners were indeed actors. So yes, as Connor says here, there's no funny moment where she signed up with a gym membership and had to use the name Turok or any other wacky Seinfeld-esque shenanigans occurred. Now, Acclaim didn't exclusively publish huge pieces of shit, and in fact published the Burnout series of racing games, which me and I'm sure a lot of other people have very fond memories of as a kid. Burnout 3 by them as well? It was not published by EA. I think Burnout 2 was the last game that Acclaim published before being shut down. But in order to promote Burnout 2, they said that they would pay for the speeding fines of anyone caught speeding on the day of Burnout 2's release. I don't know if the implication was like, you're going to be fucking drifting the entire way in order to pick out Burnout 2, and if the cops spotted you on the way, then Acclaim's got your back. Or if people just happened to be speeding on that day anyway, heard about this and were like, sweet, free loophole. I'll take easy cash. As you can imagine, the government wasn't very impressed about this, since it more or less encourages reckless behavior and dangerous driving, with the knowledge that any tickets you receive will be handled by Acclaim. It's also possible that they were simply setting up for this next campaign for the game Shadow Man Second Coming, or Second Coming. Like, I hated it when fucking C7 did this shit. I'm not kidding when I say I genuinely think this is the worst video game title I've ever seen. I'm rattling my brain, and there's some bad ones. There's some pretty bad video game titles out there, but Shadow Man 2 Coming is a real, just a greatest hits of bad video game titles. Shadow Man, exceptionally boring. What the fuck does that mean? Second Coming, as far as a sequel title goes, pretty unoriginal. It's just bad. So you can see why they needed to promote it. Acclaim offered to subsidize the costs of a headstone and possibly a funeral in exchange for having just a wee tiny advertisement for Shadow Man 2 Coming. I've already forgotten the name. That's how bad it is. Just a little one. Not prominent, but most of the headstone is still about your dead son. And let's be honest, he probably would have loved Shadow Man 2 Coming anyway. So, it's like those kids who get Spider-Man on their gravestones. Come on. The concept of what we're calling deadvertising is entirely consistent with the theme of Shadow Man 2 Coming game, and provides us with a permanent presence for our advertising. Content and context are 2 important principles of marketing Shadow Man. Yep. That's what I think of when I'm marketing Shadow Man, is what's the content and what's the context. Unsurprisingly, I don't think anyone wanted to do this. It feels like it's very much preying on like poor people or people who do not have the ability to like afford a decent headstone for their deceased. The idea of someone like feeling as though this is their only avenue to give their loved one the send-off they feel they deserve is really grim to me. Even if someone did want to go through this, they would probably have met a bit of resistance. The Church of England themselves said that there was no way it would allow any of its graveyards to be used in such a fashion. British bureaucracy may have actually put the final nail in this coffin, Thank you, British people, for that. Keep it up. Sometimes needing an advertising license for everything does pay off. The final marketing stunt I'd love to talk about here, again, from Acclaim, of course, was them advertising their game Virtua Tennis 2 for the Dreamcast. And their method for doing this, they would spray paint pigeons with a harmless water-based paint and then trained it to harass fans at Wimbledon, obviously the mecca of tennis. That's stupid enough as it is, but to me, the funniest part is that the game has already been out for 2 years. I know this was 2003. It was a different time. Like, games you didn't cycle through games quite as quickly as you do today. But even still, like a 2-year-old game, the only people I know who do that are like Nintendo. And even then, I don't think all they would do is just an ad for like Super Mario Odyssey. They wouldn't paint Mario on a bunch of Italian plumbers around New York City and then train them to I don't know, go hang out in a GameStop. It's such a baffling, weird campaign. Like, they put the logo on pigeons, which already is like, what the fuck does the Virtua Tennis 2 logo look like? Probably nothing recognizable to the average human. And then you're going to have it like on a pigeon that's like flapping its wings really close to your face while you're trying to enjoy tennis. Easily the stupidest fucking marketing stunt on this whole list. Real, genuinely. You're advertising a 2-year-old game by painting pigeons and asking them, telling them, requesting them to go and harass people at Wimbledon. Even if you just did that with the intention of reporting on it later, it's not a good story. It's not a good marketing stunt. It's just weird and pointless. It somehow is more weird and pointless than anything we've covered. And for that reason, I think it's probably the best place to end this list here. This is very much a period piece and not just the bus bleeding one. All of these ads were more or less from the 2000s to the mid 2010s, where we got to see that beautiful emergence of social media and the internet and all the other nonsense that came with that. So yeah, that's it. Those are some of the worst video game marketing stunts I could find. But if you'd like me to cover some more recent examples, we obviously haven't even touched the surface of mobile game advertising, which honestly feels like a lot of these marketing stunts on crack. So if you want to see that, comment down below. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this to all your friends. Put this in an envelope with a mysterious white powder and send it to the editor. You're going to have to bleep who I said. Thanks for tuning into the Papameat channel, etc., etc.